Hello everyone, Adam Monk here from FourFourTwo, joined by Adam Cleary, a rare unification of the presenters in a top secret location, which is that's the studio where we've been filming the videos in the background over there. And here's a little makeshift one to discuss none other than France, who played last night and beat Austria 1-0. Would you say it was in convincing fashion?
No,
I would not. France, obviously, probably the logical favourite to the tournament. I know obviously England have had the shortest odds because of the players available, but France, I think a lot of people thought that's going to be the team that ends up getting there. They were similar to England in that they were really good. They started strong. There was lots of good patterns of play, and then as the game wore on, they looked less and less sort of comfortable. Austria got into it. Austria started finding ways, started finding means, started finding opportunities, and kind of fell away a bit. And obviously they should have scored. Mbappe had that fantastic chance at the end, but I think if you're Austrian right now, you're probably wondering how you didn't get something out of the end of that.
Yeah, especially with that Baumgartner chance, which is a great name, by the way, Baumgartner. Yeah, but he probably should have put Austria 1-0 up, and then Mbappe forced that own goal 2 minutes later. And speaking about Kylian Mbappe, it's on the screen there. Well, he's apparently out for the Netherlands game now. Apparently he doesn't need surgery.
I can't believe he doesn't need surgery, because he came out this is not my joke, but he did come off that pitch looking like Steve Bruce, which is that's the last thing you need. The slow motion version of it, which you can see his nose just go completely from left to right across his face. I don't know how that isn't major bone damage. Have you Googled how bad a nose break like that actually is?
I'm not a doctor, but it's very, very apparent.
It's 6 to 8 weeks recovery time if you do something like that, and it's no sport, no activity, nothing intense for at least 6 weeks to 2 months. So the fact he's apparently come out of this hospital in Germany and they've gone, oh no, it's fine. I don't understand that at all.
Dare I say it? It smacks a bit of Ronaldo at the 2002 World Cup, where it's a bit of a cover-up, where he was injured, but they just made him play through it. I think it could be one of them where he's out for the next game, but then he just turns up like Batman for the third game of the group stage. Yeah, it doesn't,
it's not a hamstring strain, is it? The guy's nose is on the left-hand side of his face. It's not just you can play that down and say, oh, it's fine, he just popped it. It was actually altitude, that's why it was bleeding. It was nothing really serious. But France, from what we know, he's not going to play against the Netherlands. He's going to be touch and go for is Poland got at the end of the group?
Poland's
going to be touch and go for the Poland game. Obviously, it's not too disastrous if that's the case because of the group format as it is now. They've got their one win that'll probably see them through in some capacity. But if it's longer than that, which at the minute we don't know, if it is a serious break and they've just got that wrong, he will miss a fairly big chunk of the tournament. France without Mbappe is not. Well, A, good, and B, was certainly not the plan, because I think we'll go through the game in a minute and look at all this other stuff. We've lost the signal on that. That's a good start. That certainly was not the plan for them going into this, and France are about as set up for one player as it is sort of possible to be. In the groups, sorry, not the groups, in qualifying, they were quite different to this. They were playing him directly off the left. Giroud was playing most of the games. He was sort of a very important cog in that system, but they've come into the tournament and they've just gone, well, our best chance of winning this is just by letting Mbappe do whatever he wants. So that's the starting 11 as it was sort of released and as it sort of panned out. And they've got him at centre forward there with Griezmann behind, Thuram on the left, but that wasn't how that game panned out at all. If we've got some, what have we got? What have we got next?
So we've got the heat maps. That is Mbappe's heat map in the game. So predominantly on the left-hand side there, but he forced the goal from the right with the own goal, which would show really that, dare I say it, he kind of had a free roll, almost like a Jude Bellingham. He could just sort of drift to whatever side of the pitch he wanted. Griezmann wasn't necessarily leading the line either, and neither was Marcus Thuram. So you could actually say they didn't play with a striker, did they? Not a recognised one anyway, like Giroud.
No, I think that's part of the idea with this system is you can see there, that's Mbappe. He's not playing as a centre forward at all. He's drifting out onto the left to get on the ball, and then what he wants to do is drive from that left hand space towards goal, which I think is pretty much where that second chance came from. Obviously, it's a big counter attack, and Switzerland are wide open, but he does sort of get it in that left hand space, drives towards the goal, and the selection around him, specifically Thuram, Rabiot, and Griezmann, is sort of designed to you let him go where he wants to go. You let him do what he wants to do. If he wants to go out to the left, then Griezmann sort of steps into the centre forward position. If he's not going to track back, which is sort of not his job at all. So that's why 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏's there, because he'll work forward and backwards. The whole team is set up around allowing Kylian Mbappe to do Kylian Mbappe things, which is fine. But when you lose Kylian Mbappe, it's kind of, you've got to have a massive, massive rethink.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just say as well, I think that dot on the heat map, the main focal area, is where he just laid down for 5 minutes before he forced himself off the pitch. So I think we can ignore that part. But yeah, just looking at the other heat maps, I'll flick through them here. Like, we've got Antoine Griezmann's, of course, like dotted all around the park. He's, jack of all trades. Rabiot, quite similar in that respect as well. And then you've got, Marcus Thuram, kind of on both flanks, really, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, I think the Thuram and the Rabiot thing's quite interesting for those sort of like those big splodges on the left-hand side, because obviously Mbappe is playing on that side more than anything else, and yet have you got Theo Hernandez is there. That's what I was really looking forward to. That is a man who knows the player playing in front of him is not going to be doing anything coming back the other way. Like, Theo Hernandez is so good with the ball, and yet that just stops dead on the halfway line, doesn't it? Like, he knows he can't really push up too much because of that gap it's going to leave, and obviously Thuram's there to sort of cover across and sort of like make sure they don't get completely exposed. Rabiot's like, I like Rabiot, but he's sort of got this reputation, I think, in France of being such a boring pick given the options they've got available. But again, perhaps England could be learning something from this. If you want to play a particular player and get the best out of him, that maybe means you have to sacrifice a few other talented players to make that work. And that's why Rabiot's there. That's why Hernandez is behaving like that. That's why Thuram's coming on both sides. That's why Griezmann's dotting out across the entire pitch when it just looks like he's just supposed to be in behind Mbappe. So we have sort of laboured this point somewhat, but it really is important to understand that this France side is literally just about getting everything you possibly can extract from Kylian Mbappe, which is fair.
Absolutely. I mean, he's the best player in the world. One more thing I was going to say, we have kind of scripted this. We knew what we were going to talk about, but in terms of N'Golo Kante, though, like we actually didn't really discuss him. Him coming back into the frame after seemingly like 2 years absent from top level football and just seemingly having more stamina last night than he's ever really displayed in the last 5 years. Does that help facilitate what France wants to do when they do have Mbappe because of how good he is out of possession?
Well, I think, as you know, literally every point here is just that this helps them get the most out of their best player. Like the Kante counter-attack where it wasn't the full-backs who covered over, it wasn't the centre-backs who burst back in, it was this player for whom, allegedly there's question marks over what he's been doing the last 2 years. What's the level like in Saudi Arabia? Has he finished? Is he this? Is he that? I think you just saw there that, like, his time in European football absolutely was not up when he decided to end it, and it probably still isn't even up now.
Class is permanent.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, like, you probably get some people being a bit sniffy and being like, well, it was only Switzerland, but like, Switzerland are a good side Austria are a good side with a lot of energy, and to put in a performance like that and bail them out at like that one moment as well, like that's absolutely huge. But again, I don't think necessarily when you're looking at that French midfield and the options available to you, you go and pick N'Golo Kante from the obscurity of Saudi Arabian football unless you're trying to do something specific with one player like Mbappe. So again, that's big. Like it's paying off for them already, but we have to talk about what they're going to do without him.
And then, looking at France without Mbappe, the last 2 times that they played without Kylian Mbappe, well, the first time was a 2-1 loss to Germany, which was an international friendly. But you can see here it was in a 4-4-2 shape with Kolo Muani sort of leading the line with Antoine Griezmann. So is that something you could see them going towards? It also says Adrien Rabiot is on the left-hand side of midfield there as well. Yeah,
I think like what that's posted as and what the reality is probably quite different. I think France they've only really got 2 options when you think about this, right? They can either keep doing exactly what they're doing and giving someone else the Mbappe freedom on that side. Kingsley Coman, for example. Just bring somebody else in and go, look, we're set up in this way, we think it's going to work, just go and do Mbappe for us. Do your best approximation of what that is. Or they kind of go back to the system they had in qualifying, which I think you bring Giroud in, you'd stick him up front, and then you just sort of like, again, you'd have somebody do the Mbappe role.
That's what it is there. So that's the game against Greece.
With Kolo Muani.
Giroud leading the line, and then Kolo Muani seems to be the one who is Mbappe sort of, second in command.
Yeah, like the thing is, that's obviously the sensible thing to do. Like obviously Olivier Giroud, you're talking about class being permanent with N'Golo Kante. Like you've got it in abundance there. the obvious thing to do then is to just, you bring 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 and you do this exact same thing. But given that the rest of the side is so set up, almost to its detriment, to be about Mbappe, like there's no 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏 there, for example. There's no 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏. Like there's way more spectacular and, there's way more sort of aggressive and more front foot midfielders France could be playing, but they're not because of the downside to playing Mbappe, which is you don't expect him to work back the way, you don't expect him to cover over. You've got to sort of like mitigate for that lack of stability by picking your 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏s, by picking your 𝗫𝗫𝗍𝗏s. Now, if you're the French manager and you're bringing someone else in just to fill in for what Mbappe was doing, but they will work back, like they will do those things. They're not going to be as good going forward, but they're also going to be a lot better going backwards. Do you not then start to think, well, should I maybe loosen things up in the middle as well? Because I would.
That translates to club football now, because Mbappe's gone to Real Madrid. Who are his midfielders? 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 and 𝗘𝗫𝗏𝗏. So maybe, and Modric and 𝗚𝗏𝗏. The controllers are there, but 𝗘𝗫𝗏𝗏 will play every game. So maybe France should take a leaf out of that future book, but we shall see. And then finally, obviously the Mbappe omission is going to be a crisis, or a little bit of one if it is against the Netherlands. But like William Saliba, he made his first international tournament start for France yesterday after an amazing season for Arsenal in replacement of 𝗷𝗫𝗓𝗍𝗏, who's of course at Liverpool. So, what do you think the dynamic is there? Is there anything to read into Saliba starting the games as opposed to Konaté? Does he bring something different to France?
Well, he's just, I don't think it's controversial to say he's had a better season. I don't think it's controversial to say he's probably a better player as well. It's just that, like with most international teams, when you've got a settled sort of defence, you're very sort of reluctant to unsettle it. So, you'd have to ask Deschamps why he's done that, but obviously I don't think bringing Saliba is too much of a problem. The issue France have got is, like, obviously everybody talks about how all these international sides tend to win tournaments on basically the strength of their defence and how settled that is. And obviously they've already made a bit of an issue. They've already made a change here. They didn't look massively comfortable at the back. Certainly, like, again, when you compare it to the England game, it was sort of similar in sort of, they took a lead and then they had to defend. But I don't think England looked under anywhere near as much sort of pressure of losing that game as France did. They weren't letting Serbia in behind, whereas that kept happening to France quite a lot. I would sort of argue that without Mbappe, I don't think France necessarily have got the defensive stability to go and win this tournament. Like, clean sheets for them in the build-up and in qualifying have been not impossible to come by, but they've not exactly been in... fewer and further between. Obviously, the German game, which we looked at before, they conceded twice there. They conceded against Scotland, which, certainly in that run they were on was quite the rare sight. They should have conceded in their opening game as well. I would worry for them without that sort of firepower.
Do you know what I'd say is just like a generalised point? I think, yes, Mbappe, you could argue, is the best player in the world. I think France's strength in depth is slightly overstated outside of the world of Kylian Mbappe. I do. I think what I mean by that is if they lost Mbappe, that's the biggest detriment to their team, as opposed to like. So my point is, let's say England lost Kane, right? It'd be a terrible blow, right? But England could then theoretically adapt to that with the likes of maybe Jude Bellingham in a false nine or something like that, or they've got quality behind in each attacking area. They've got an abundance of quality in each position. I think France's drop off is bigger, is what I'm trying to say. That if they lost Mbappe, and because they're so centred around optimising him, true. It ruins them effectively. I'd also say Germany arguably have better depth in that regard.
Yeah, you know what, actually, you've won me round onto that. Although I would say the analogy you'd use was if England lost Jude Bellingham, that kind of feels a little bit more like it's built on sand. I think France have a very, very good squad. They've got... I stand by that England have got the best 11 at this tournament. France probably got the best squad, and maybe even Portugal have got sort of the best beyond that.
Like standout.
Yeah, the best depth. I would say, though, that they have clearly built this around Mbappe. We've literally gone through, like, this entire selection for this France team is built so much around getting the most out of what they clearly believe is the best player at this tournament. And if you take that away from them, I don't think it even really matters what the drop-off is. Whoever you bring in, however close they might be at that level, which of course is a distance away, the unsettling that's gonna have through the rest of your team.
Not got that bloke who can just do it by himself.
Yeah, psychologically, you don't know which way that's going to fall because I'm sure some managers would tell you that's the best thing that can happen because then everyone's got to step up and they've got to do it, etc. But also at the same time, I play on a football team. When our one player who was good isn't there, we assume we're going to lose. And do you know what happens? We do lose. We lose even
some of your saves.
Yeah, we lose even when he's there.
Drop a couple in the edit.
Probably that's not seen the later day. We lose even when he is there. To be fair, so that's sort of by the by. I don't think France know what they'll do necessarily. Well, certainly tactically, I do know what they'll do. They'll bring in Griezmann. They'll go back to what they were doing in qualifying. But I don't think they know what they'll do in terms of how far they'll go and what they'll be capable of without Mbappe inside. Now, we should say this is a very dramatic way of saying, like, he's probably going to miss the Netherlands game, might miss Poland. But there is just this, there's still an inkling for me, and there's still a little bit of talk that this actually might be being played down to an extent, and they're sort of hoping. Yeah, I think it could be potentially. I mean, certainly the talk. I mean, you saw Deschamps in the post-match press conference. Yeah, the vibe was like, "This is the end of the world. This is the worst thing that could have possibly happened." But we'll see.
Think back to the 2014 World Cup. Neymar had a back injury, and Brazil capitulated.
Yeah,
I'm getting similar vibes. And one more point I'd make on France. It's not necessarily tactical. 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔-𝗧𝗜𝗠𝗘, in my opinion, out of defenders at top level clubs, is maybe the worst I've seen in Europe. Yeah, Mark's nodding.
Getting nods.
I don't know why he starts ahead of Konaté. Is there a tactical reason you're aware of? Because every time I've watched him, he's awful.
The thing is, I can't dispute that sentence because every time I have watched him, he's had an absolute disaster class. However, I don't think I've watched him enough for that to be a completely fair representation of his ability. I assume there must just be things I don't see, but I will acknowledge that I have not seen them.
Yeah. 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔-𝗧𝗜𝗠, that's what they call it.
I think if you've got Kanté in there, specifically on that side as well, that does sort of mitigate that. But
and you've got Koundé as well, who's the centre half, I guess, as well.
My gut feeling for France is that they could be on one of these journeys that these fancied nations go on when they're relying so much on a player who's not quite fully fit. I think you've turned me on to the idea here that we're seeing the next Ronaldo or Neymar limping through a tournament in real time.
And I think simply put, the way that France set up yesterday exemplifies that. Yeah, well, I guess the question that remains, or the question that we're asking, is just whether France have a plan B. And yeah, basically, in a nutshell. And they're playing a decent side in the Netherlands too, so we shall see. But regardless, that was the end of the first instalment of whatever this is, discussion on the Euros, a game on a sofa. And you can check out the latest edition of the 442 magazine. What's the line that you say? From all good retailers and
ones as well.
Yeah, don't forget to subscribe, guys, from both the Adams. We will see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.